I just had Deshaun Kaiser on the podcast about a couple weeks ago, and we were laughing about Deshaun's first interaction with Aaron and the whole 9/11. Aaron going up to him and basically the first question being, "Hey, do you believe in 9/11?" And Deshaun was like, not sure how to respond. And so there's almost like this dichotomy between who Aaron is and then who he's portrayed at. But in the book, you get into some of some of the charity work that he does, and some of the things that he's done for those around him that don't normally get portrayed in media. So I was hoping you kind of allude to maybe that side of Aaron that most people might not be familiar with.
Yeah, people forget before COVID, Aaron was considered one of the good guys in the NFL and in American sports in general. He supported Colin Kaepernick. It was one of the few stars to say out loud that he felt that the NFL owners were keeping him out of the league because of his protest. He rebuked a fan who shouted out an anti-Muslim slur during the national anthem, and President Obama wrote him a letter thanking him for that. He was really on the right side of a lot of social issues, and media members, commentators were praising him constantly for that. And then his life changed really with those four words, "Yeah, I've been immunized," when he was asked if he was vaccinated in August of 2021. And so really he became a villain after he was, for most of his career, considered the opposite of that. And then the conspiracy theories and the thing with Jimmy Kimmel. And so there were layers of that. Sometimes it felt like he was leaning into that role. But there's been a lot of good with Aaron Rodgers, and I think that's been forgotten in the last 3, 4 years. And I was talking to his marketing agent at CAA, Ed Berry, who's Saquon Barkley's agent. He told me he's a frustrating client because he does these acts of kindness and generosity behind the scenes, and then when Ed wants to publicize it, Aaron shuts him off. He's like, I don't want that. So, some of it is Aaron's fault because he doesn't agree to publicize some of these things, but giving money to victims of the wildfires in California, and he's great with children in particular. There was a kid last year at Jets camp. His name was Braylon Hodgson, and he had a rare form of brain cancer, brain stem cancer, and he was dying. And so his father took him to Jets camp. And his father, after consuming Aaron Rodgers' information in the media for the last few years, just assumed he was a jerk and that he might say hello and then just move on. But actually, Aaron spent more time with this kid at camp than anyone and showed him great compassion. And his father really felt like he cared. So, unfortunately, the boy dies on September 12th, the morning after Aaron got hurt on the night of 9/11. And he had Aaron Rodgers' jersey with him when he died. And so there were a lot of stories like that. And even Randall Cobb, his old teammate, would tell a story about Aaron flying across the country from California to Nashville to attend his 3-year-old birthday party. And he said, how many people do you know would do that for a 3-year-old's birthday party? So there are a lot of stories like that. I think the goodness of Aaron is still there below the surface, lost in the public discussion of who he is as a player and athlete, but it shouldn't be lost. And so I tried to bring those stories out in this book because it's not a fair appraisal of his life if those stories aren't there, because they exist, they're real, and they need to be told.
What does that say about Aaron, this reserved nature and this, this pushback against, publicizing some of the good that he's done?
That he doesn't need it. And I do think he cares about the criticism, and all human beings do. It hurts, and I think sometimes it hurts, but he doesn't really feel the need to balance it out with public stories anyway. And I think that's actually a commendable trait. He has certainly battled with the media over some of his positions, whether it be the Jimmy Kimmel affair or conspiracy theories or the vaccine particularly. And that's really the one that changed his life. And he's never recovered from that public relations hit. And I did sit with him when I sat with him in Malibu, and I asked him why he didn't just tell the truth that day. It was August of 21, right? So 3 years ago, you're asked if you're vaccinated. You're a fearless public speaker. You're a truth teller, at least your truth. So why not say what you believe to be true that day, which is that you were allergic to an ingredient in Pfizer and Moderna and concerned about Johnson & Johnson side effects. And I was vaxxed, but I would have found that to be a reasonable position. And I don't think I would have hammered you that day in my column if I were sitting there as a columnist for a Green Bay or Milwaukee outlet. And he effectively said, yeah, I should have said that. I made a mistake. And so guys like him, they don't admit weaknesses and faults and errors and mistakes very often. I can't remember him ever saying, I'm sorry about anything. And he didn't say he was sorry, but he just said, I gave critics ammunition that they still have against me today. And that was a mistake. I should have been truthful, and I wasn't, because he did mislead people. And when the truth came out 3 months later that he was not vaccinated, I said to him, I think you would have gotten less than half the criticism that you ended up fielding had you just been honest in August of 21. And I think ultimately he agreed with that. And so I appreciated the fact that he at least admitted that he made a mistake.